Yeah, just 1 second, and that is, I don't think that, you mentioned about, well, the cases that are occurring or related to bakers and pizza people, and I think this is much bigger than that, and I think it deals with businesses and having the right not to serve or not to engage or not to honor. I mean, it's so much bigger than that, and that's why I'm really concerned about this. But
are you also concerned about people being forced to enter into contracts sure. that it's against their religious beliefs? You're also concerned about that?
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
I think there are arguments on both sides.
And are you concerned about those people being targeted? Because, you got thousands of bakers and thousands of photographers, and all of a sudden they go, well, let's go after this Christian.
Yeah,
That seems to me to be pretty apparent, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, no question, this is not a public accommodations issue as we had during the 60s. But here's my issue. My issue is that, what if I say, look, my religion dictates that I can't do this, and I just can't do it. I'm sorry. I can't hire you because that's my religion. My religion says that you have certain qualities or you're engaging in certain activities, and I just don't want to hire you.
So you're concerned about that aspect of it. Okay.
That's a major aspect.
Well, let's get some input. I know you and I have sounded off on it. Let's get some input. Sure. Our next caller is well known, one of our great talk show hosts right here on WGSO. Our friend William Wallace checking in with us. He hosts the William Wallace Town Hall Tuesday night, 7 to 9, right here on the airwaves. What's happening, William?
As for the Religious Freedoms Act, in a time when Christianity is being attacked, it's good to hear that there are people who are standing up for our religious freedoms. But I do want to remind people that we are already protected under the First Amendment. So by creating more laws to protect or to enhance, we'll say, the ones that we've got, we're only paving the way for a quagmire of rules and regulations that are going to be really hard to entangle at a later time, because even though these laws protect us, they're also going to protect people that we don't agree with.
Anyway, Jeff, getting on this issue of same-sex marriage, and Steve being an attorney,
yes.
Just some quick research. Back in 1968, the Supreme Court ruled 8-0 against a white Christian conservative male racist in South Carolina who tried to use his religious beliefs to discriminate against black customers. The guy owned a restaurant. I think it was a barbecue restaurant. His name was Maurice Bessinger. 8-0. The Supreme Court says, no, sir, you white racist, you cannot discriminate against blacks. You have to serve them in your restaurant. And this guy used the Bible continuously to justify his racist stand against black people. Well, the Supreme Court says, no, that was patently frivolous. So religious beliefs are not an absolute defense against a person who wants to discriminate. That's a 8-0 Supreme Court decision. And one more thing, concerning same-sex marriage, I said it last week, the tide is turning, whether you like it or not, that's the reality. Young people aged 18 to 29 Americans favor same-sex marriage at 78%. People over 65, polled by Gallup, it is about half of that. In corporate America, it was just mentioned, corporate America is, I think, like 200 corporations filed a friend of the court brief to the Supreme Court saying that they in favor of making same-sex marriage legal throughout the country because it is a tremendous burden on their human resources people to have to deal with all these different laws in order to get a solid or a sustained policy in their corporation, and their own charters, their own corporate charters say that discrimination is wrong, Jeff.
All right, my friend. Well, I mean, you mentioned a lot of poll numbers, which I think are true, and I'm not going to dispute the poll numbers, and I certainly think that you're right. Younger generation has a different view of same-sex marriage as an older generation. I'd be very interested to see how Rand Paul addresses this in his campaign, since his appeal is to younger voters. and we know where they stand on gay marriage. I wonder if that's going to impact his position on that issue. So that'll be interesting to see. As far as the other Supreme Court case you bring up, I think nobody would have, and I think that's a good point to make, that nobody would have the right to say, hey, just because you're gay or just because you're married in a gay ceremony, I'm not going to serve you lunch or I'm not going to serve you dinner. I do think there's a distinction between that and performing a service, a contracted service for a wedding, such as providing the catering, etc. Steve's the expert here. The lawyer could maybe say whether there is a distinction there. Steve?
Well, again, I haven't read the laws, so it's hard for me to say. I'm just going by what I'm hearing and what I'm reading. Again, my issue is somebody using religion as a buffer, and I have a real problem with that on all sides of the issue. And like the other caller, or like Wallace said, Mr. Wallace said, it's going to come back and bite you. So because the other side is going to say, well, hey, I just my religious belief tells me that I should not, and so therefore I'm not going to serve you. I'm not going to contract with you. I'm not going to sell you this appliance. And so I'm not going to hire you. That's where we are.
Well,
with this.
And I think isn't that what motivated the governor of Indiana to, quote, fix the religious freedom law, so that the law wouldn't be any kind of excuse for someone to deny services to someone who was gay or for whatever reason based on religion.
Well, and so if that's what he did, because big business primarily came out there and said, hey, we're going to pull out, then maybe that's an improvement, and maybe we should not be so quick to be angry at big business for doing that. Look.
Well, but Steve, isn't it interesting that this whole thing started back in 1993? A law passed during the Clinton administration, and that these state laws, many of them mirror just what the federal government did back in 1993. And nobody said at that time, oh, well, this is opening the door for discrimination against gays. This was all about, well, we're celebrating religious freedom.
And I think that's a good point. I think that time has evolved. The gays are the ones who are really bringing it up. But I think that in terms of theory, I think that, theoretically speaking, this is really going to open up a lot of doors in a lot of different areas, and that's a concern.
Limited time, and I want to squeeze in a few quick ones. Let's go to our friend Adam in Pearl River. Hey, Adam, how are you, sir? Good morning.
Hey, thank you, Jeff. Just real quickly, I was marveling at James's twisted comments regarding this issue, and James is actually suggesting to us that the fact that a great percentage of our youth have bought into this perverted homosexual marriage activity means that it's okay. So I guess in James's mind, if 90% of our youth decided they would love to participate in a sexual orgy every night, that would be the criteria we should use to allow such activity. That kind of twisted thinking bears watching very closely by the psychiatric field.
Look, I think we should have this particular debate. One of the things that the caller from Pearl River had mentioned, and he said that it was perverted. I know that during my lifetime, a lot of people called gays perverts, and I think that's that is something I just really feel uncomfortable about, because I do not know whether or not gays. I personally believe a lot of people were born gay.
All right.
I don't hear any evidence. I haven't seen evidence to the contrary.
Well, I mean, that is a raging scientific debate. I tend to believe otherwise, but that is a big debate, and there are people on both sides of that issue. We don't have time to get into that